The mark of the beast was the law that Jesus Christ came to fulfill. It was a curse that he fulfilled. They rejected Jesus Christ and tried to keep the Old Testament instead of the New. Let's see how fast I can get this done here. Whenever the curse of the law was given in Exodus and Deuteronomy, it said, "Bind this upon your hand and let it be for frontlets between your eyes." It said, "Let it be for a sign upon their hand and a memorial between their eyes, so that the law of the Lord could be in their mouth." Back then it was called phylacteries. Today they call it tefillin. The Jews wrap a box around their hand with a little Torah scroll in it with scriptures that they enjoy on there, and they put it on their hand and on their forehead. Those that overcame the mark of the beast sang the Song of Moses because it was a Jewish thing. Gentiles never had the law or the prophets. It was about the Jews. The reason they sang the Song of Moses is because Moses' face shone with the glory of God, but he had to cover his face and put a veil over it so that the children of Israel could not see the glory of God or steadfastly look past that which would be abolished. That's 2 Corinthians chapter 3. Also in that chapter, it said that the letter killed, but the Spirit gave life. Jesus brought the New Testament written in their hearts by the Spirit, and they were trying to keep the Old Testament of the letter and the law. Also, 2 Corinthians chapter 3 said, even until that day whenever Moses was read, the veil was on their hearts because they had not turned to Christ. And what was it that Jesus Christ came to do? Redeem them from the curse of the law. And what was it that they rejected Christ for? The law. Now that tefillin and phylacteries, it was called phylacteries back then. The Jews wrapped it around their hand and put it on their forehead, and it had a little Torah scroll in it, small enough to eat. And they would write in it laws that they enjoyed from the Torah. This is what you see in Revelation chapter 10, whenever an angel puts one foot on the sea and one foot on the beast and has a little book in his hand, a little scroll. They didn't have books back then. A little scroll, small enough to eat. It was that Torah scroll. And then 7 thunders uttered their voices, but he wasn't allowed to write what they uttered because they told him what the mark of the beast was, and they had to seal it up and not write it because that would be the thing that tested all of them to see whether or not they were with Christ or against Christ. You couldn't tell the difference between a Jewish Christian and somebody who didn't believe, except for Christians would not wear phylacteries or tefillin. They were warned about those things their entire lives by the apostles. They would not go back to the law and reject Jesus Christ. He became their new Passover. They weren't going to keep a law that was given to them at Passover under Moses. They were not going to keep the commandment that came with the blood of animals whenever they had the blood of Christ. The ones who did not believe in Christ, they kept the law. They rejected Jesus. They said that that temple would not be destroyed. They tried to fight to protect the temple. Jesus' kingdom was not of this world. His servants did not fight. They called themselves the Messiah. They kept the phylacteries and tefillin upon their hand and forehead. They kept the old law and rejected the new. And they would not allow Christians to buy and sell. This might not mean much to us today, but back then, to spend Jewish currency, you had to go up into the temple. You could go out and make any money you wanted, but you had to bring it to the temple, to the money changers that Jesus threw over in the temple. Well, they took over the temple, these unbelieving Jews that hated Jesus Christ, and they kept the wealth of the temple, and they would not allow any Christians to exchange their currency so that they could buy and sell. They also hated Christians and Jesus, and they would kill Christians. Whenever I talked about Revelation chapter 10, I meant to say put one foot on the sea and one foot on the earth. One beast came up out of the sea, the other beast came up out of the earth, and that was the thing that brought them together, was that little Torah scroll that was small enough for John to eat. The number of the beast, it was the number of a man. Today we have a Jewish language that has added vowels. We don't have the original language that was back then, and anybody with wisdom, because their alphabet was letters and numbers, could count the number of the beast because everybody that had wisdom or was learned, every single word had a numerical value. The word mark, we have translations and transliterations of transliterations, and the word mark actually meant to etch back then, or write on a piece of paper. And that word given power to speak just meant given authority. The law says, the law says, the law says. The mark of the beast already happened in history. It happened after the first resurrection. First, you see the 144,000, they were the first fruits unto God, ruling and reigning with Christ. After that, an angel flies throughout heaven and says, if any man take the mark of the beast, because it happened after the first resurrection. This all happened in 66 AD. Long time ago. I've got videos explaining all of it. Give me a follow. Sorry, I tried to do this video as fast as I could so I wouldn't bore you.